Over the past few years, Kirby merchandise has really exploded in popularity. There was always Kirby stuff coming out, but recently we've seen countless plush sets, gachapon figure sets, and more be released. But with all of these new products coming out, many people have begun to look back at what came before it. But unfortunately, especially with Kirby, that's not that easy to do. Kirby merchandise before the mid-2000s is really hard to keep track of. There were tons of sets released, but a lot of it was very poorly documented. This is most prominently the case with very early Kirby merchandise. And that's a shame, because tons of early Kirby stuff does exist. As early as Kirby's Adventure, the marketability of Kirby was already in full force. There is a ton of obscure Kirby's Adventure merchandise, such as this set of gachapon plushes, released by Bandai, or this finger puppet set, also by Bandai. Bandai was responsible for a majority of the merchandise released under the Kirby's Adventure brand. While Takara did handle a UFO catcher set of Kirby's Adventure plushes, Bandai basically handled everything else, including this very interesting set of plushes. This is a set of 4 plushes, released in 1993 by Bandai for Kirby's Adventure. The set isn't that large, consisting of only 4 plushes, but they've been getting a lot of attention recently, mostly due to how they look. As you probably know, Kirby looked a lot different back in the early days of the franchise. His face was smaller, he had beady eyes, and his cheeks were just dashes. This Kirby design has seen a bit of a comeback recently, with merchandise at least. With the 25th anniversary, several companies have released plushes as well as other products with this Kirby design as the basis. That's really cool and all, but there's some charm with early Kirby merchandise that just can't be replicated, and I think this set shows that. This set contains a Star Rod Kirby, which came in both small and large sizes, a Parasol Kirby, and a small keychain Kirby holding a star, which I actually happen to own. There's nearly no information on this set archived, and they're all very hard to come by. How rare are these, you may ask? Well, the Star Rod and Parasol Kirbys were recently up for sale on Yahoo Japan auctions, and they sold for, well, Parasol Kirby ended for 77,000 yen, and Star Rod Kirby ended for 89,000 yen. This set is probably the rarest set of Kirby plushes out there. So, let's not waste any more time and take a look at one of the most unique and obscure Kirby plush sets out there. And with that said, welcome to a look back at the Bandai Kirby's Adventure plush set. Here is a Kirby plush. This one is Sane's All-Star Collection Kirby. He's basically a perfect replica of Kirby's current appearance. But, as we know, Kirby didn't always look like this. Just a few years prior in 2008, the same company, Sane, released this Kirby plush. He still looks pretty current, but you can tell he's closer to his right back at ya appearance rather than what we know today. Going back even further, here's a Kirby 64 plush of Kirby. This was the first plush to really be close to Kirby's current appearance. However, he's still clearly an earlier, less refined version of the design. This guy comes from a UFO Catcher Kirby 64 plush set that I absolutely love. The set contains characters like Ribbon and Adeline and are some of my favorite Kirby plushes. I'd love to make a video on this set in the future. However, anything prior to Kirby 64 looks pretty weird by today's standards. This Kirby comes from a Kirby's Dream Land 3 set, released by Bandai in 1998. This set, which was released through blind boxes, contains Kirby, but also some animal buddies, making this set really stand out. Going all the way back to 1995, we have this Kirby Superstar plush. Here you can really see some of Kirby's earlier designs shine. He has no blue highlights in his eyes, and his blush marks are dashes. That brings us to 1993, with Kirby's Adventure giving way to some of the first plushes of Kirby. I've previously taken a look at the Takara set, which does contain some of the earliest plushes of the series. Along with the Takara set, this Bandai plush set was released, which again highlights the early design of Kirby. My point here is that Kirby, as a character, has gone through tons of design changes, and that makes looking at older merchandise of the series really fascinating. The Bandai set I'm looking at today has really blown up in popularity recently, no doubt thanks to how charming the plushes look given their early appearance. However, they're not only appealing design-wise, but also seem to be very high-quality plushes, and the set is very well made and put together. So, let's take a look at them, starting with the famous Star Rod Kirby. Here's the first plush we'll be looking at in this set, or, well, first two. Star Rod Kirby. This guy is not only the most well-known out of the set, he also came in 2 sizes. Yes, both small and large Star Rod Kirbys exist. Both share a very similar pattern, with the only difference really being their size. Kirby here is standing tall, proudly displaying his well-earned Star Rod in his raised hand, with a wide smile on his face. Kirby's eyes are made of a hard black plastic, which perfectly captures the light reflecting off this plush, making his eyes really shine. Kirby's mouth is opened, showing his tongue, which is made of felt, and looks to be simply glued on. The mouth does look a little sloppily executed on the small Kirby, but it looks great nonetheless. Kirby's blush marks are simple embroidered dashes, which are perfectly positioned and look great, and they even stand out from the plush's fuzzy material it's made of. This is a very soft boy. While I've sadly never gotten the life-changing chance of holding one of these Star Rod Kirbys, he looks very soft to the touch, and Bandai used a fantastic material on these. Kirby's hands and feet are small, but that's accurate to how they were in Kirby's Adventure. Kirby's Star Rod is firmly attached to his hand, and is usually sticking upwards, though it does seem it can be bent out of shape easily. The red and white pattern isn't perfectly stitched onto the rod, but it looks fine. The star looks very well shaped, and even has a border around the edge of it, to make it look more detailed than a simple star cutout. This detail is on both the large and small Kirby too, showing no details were sacrificed for the smaller size. Here's a look at the set's paper tag. Only the Star Rod and Parasol Kirby seem to have come with this, with the keychain Kirby having this sticker instead of a tag. Anyway, the tag is based off the Japanese main art for Kirby's Adventure, with the game's logo on a white background full of yellow stars. The tag also has a pink border, and the Bandai logo at the bottom corner. Along with that, there are HAL and Nintendo copyrights, along with text that reads Bandai 1993 made in China. The tag is attached with a silver string looped through the plush's touch tag. The touch tag is a simple white tag with red text, most likely used to match the Bandai logo as seen here. Here's the best look at the back of the tag I could find. It's mostly just legal info, but you can see an ST3 here, which signifies the set was released in 1993. I'm actually not sure how large these two are. I imagine the small Kirby is around 7 inches, with the larger one being closer to 12 inches, going off of pictures at least. Now, you may be wondering, where do these pictures come from? Well, these pictures were actually taken at a, get this, Kirby merchandise museum. I'll talk more about this later, but the museum showcased nearly every piece of Kirby merchandise imaginable. Tons of stuff shown off here wasn't even known to exist. They had products spanning the entire history of the franchise. Kirby's Adventure plushes, Kirby 64 figures, even merchandise from the anime. Basically, it sounds like the greatest place on Earth. But, as it turns out, I guess HAL or whoever supplied the merchandise to go on display here just so happened to have tons of these old Bandai plushes lying around, so they made them basically the flagship product on display here. So, thanks to the museum, we now have pictures showcasing dozens of these plushes together. Now would be a good time to talk about how rare and valuable this guy really is. Alright, so what's the rarity of these plushes? How hard is it to acquire these? Is it possible for you watching this video to someday own one of these? Well, yeah, but it'll take some insane luck, a chunk of your life savings, or a combination of the two. Notice how I didn't say how these guys were released? Well, I actually don't know. There's no way they were UFO catcher prizes. They look too high quality for that. So I want to say they were available for retail purchase. If that is the case, which it likely is, they had to have gotten a very limited release. And given the demand and hype surrounding these, especially the Star Rod Kirby, they go for insanely high prices when up at auction. I've only seen a handful of these guys go up for sale, and almost every time they go for huge money. I'll start relatively small. There's one listing from a few years ago of the full set, from the Japanese site Mandarake. I'll be referencing this listing a few times in the video, but in the case of Star Rod Kirby, the listing had the small one up for 20,000 yen, and the large one up for 40,000 yen. For reference, at the time of me making this video, 20,000 yen is roughly 188 US dollars, while 40,000 yen is roughly 375 US dollars. Now, it is possible that these were just rough guesses at their value, as no recent auctions had happened at the time. However, they sold. They sold for these prices, and that's at least how much they're worth. But if you think that's crazy, just wait. Those were fixed prices that the store chose. How much could these go for when up at auction on, say, Yahoo Japan? Well, thankfully, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, two recent Yahoo Japan auctions listings for this set showed up. One of Star Rod Kirby and one of Parasol Kirby. I'll touch on Parasol Kirby later, but Star Rod Kirby, who was tagged and even bagged, ended for 89,000 yen. In USD, that's $834, which is significantly more more than what Mandarake was asking for. To make this even more unbelievable, it seems this was the small Starrod Kirby. It wasn't even the large one. It ended for over $800. The small Kirby. I was blown away when I saw it end for that price, but I guess it does make a little sense. This set was released decades ago and had to have been made in very limited quantities. They're also highly stylized after a fan favorite but previous design of Kirby, as he appeared in Kirby's Adventure, making them even more desired. Desire equals demand, and with only a handful of them known to be in circulation, it adds up. And I've seen the plush in the past go for similar amounts, so it's not like this was a one-time fluke. All I can say is if you're after one of these plushes, good luck. One of the most marketable aspects of the Kirby franchise has to be the copy abilities. Over the years, tons of plushes of Kirby using his abilities have been released. We've seen tons of plushes of Fire Kirby, Ice Kirby, Sword Kirby, and many, many more. Even as early as Kirby's Adventure, plushes of these copy abilities were being made. For example, the Takara plush set had Crash and Freeze Kirby, and this Bandai set also has some powered-up Kirbys. I guess technically Starrod Kirby would count, but the next plush we'll be looking at is the first ever plush of Parasol Kirby. Look at this guy. He's having the time of his life, soaring through the air with a huge smile on his face. Just like the Starrod Kirbys, this Kirby has beady eyes and is very soft. He has a closed, wide smile, and again showcases Kirby's dashes for blush marks. This Kirby, unlike future Parasol Kirby plushes, really showcases the power-up well, as he is in a flying pose. To go with this flying pose, this is one of the few official plushes I have seen that comes with a suction cup, so you can hang him up and have him soar through the air anywhere you want. This is a great addition to the plush and is such a perfect feature. The suction cup is attached to a ring that is knotted to a string that is attached to Kirby's back. The string is towards the top of Kirby's back, so you can get that perfect flying position when he's hung up. This suction cup is so great. It's perfect for the design and is so versatile. Stick him on your window, stick him on your car, stick him on your glass display case parallel to another Parasol Kirby, as they ascend into the skies above as fellow Starrod Kirbys gaze in the distance below. As for the Parasol itself, it's a big poofy design with red and white coloring and a red knob at the top. The rod of the handle seems to be made of a hard material, overlaid with a softer material, and the bottom part of the handle is made of felt, which is stitched to Kirby's hand. The overall construction of the plush looks very high quality, with the only issues I can see being the possible frailness of the Parasol. Everything else about this guy is really appealing and looks great. I really like the idea of the suction cup. That's so ingenious, and I'm surprised future Kirby plushes such as Flying Kirby plushes haven't done the same. As for Parasol Kirby's rarity, I've only seen him up for auction once, in which a bidding war got him up to 77,000 yen, which is roughly $728. So yeah, it's not like this Kirby is any cheaper than Starrod Kirby. In fact, he's probably rarer. Sure, he's sold for less money, but that's probably because Starrod Kirby is far more desired. I bet Starrod Kirby was made in higher quantities as it's the flagship Kirby of the set, while Parasol Kirby was more of an extra, and he probably costed more at retail, as he has a suction cup. Going back to that Mandarake listing, however, that had him up for 4,000 yen? This is the same listing that has the Starrod Kirbys for insane prices. Is this a mistake? He sold for over $700 on Yahoo Japan. I guess the seller just didn't know people would pay the same high prices for Parasol Kirby. And this was the in-hand image from the listing, so it's not like the Kirby was in really bad shape either. He's even tagged. Well, in any case, whoever got this guy for the equivalent of just under $38 got him for an absolute steal. Here's the last plush in the set, a small mascot keychain plush of Kirby holding a star. And yes, I actually own this one. I managed to find him for just $13 from a private collector, and I'm really thankful I was able to find him when I did. This is such a unique Kirby plush. I'm so happy to own a piece from this incredible set. This guy is very small. He's around 3 inches tall and fits in the palm of your hand, the perfect size for a keychain. Kirby's in a similar pose to the Starrod Kirbys, only this time with his hand positioning flipped. The face on him looks pretty different compared to the other plushes, as his eyes are smaller, his mouth is a very cute U shape, and he has red embroidered blush marks. Kirby's hands are actually much thinner than they appear, with only a little bit of stuffing in them. They're stitched to the plush very well though. Kirby's star is cut very well and is made of a thick piece of felt. One thing you really can't appreciate about this set unless you're holding one in your hands is just how well made they are. Unlike a lot of early Japanese video game plushes, these were most likely available to be bought at retail tail, and not to be one in UFO catchers, so their overall quality is much higher, and it shows. The plush is very soft, the embroidery is perfect, he's stuffed well, and it doesn't feel like things such as his feet will ever fall off. I mean, he has survived for decades and is still in this great of condition, so he's gotta be a very strong and well-made Kirby, and that goes for the rest of the set. I really appreciate this keychain being gold, and it's a pretty elaborate keychain at that, especially compared to other mascot plushes. I was fortunate enough to get one of these guys with their chain sticker still on. I imagine a majority of people took this off, so it's really cool that he still has it. It seems he never had a paper tag, and this was the substitute. This side shows some identification tools such as a barcode and item number, but the other side is a lot more interesting. In Japanese, it reads Kirby Stuffed Toy Keychain. Under that it says Bandai 1993 Japan, and under that are the copyrights for both HAL Laboratory and Nintendo. As for mascot Kirby's rarity, he's the least expensive of the set by far. Like I said, I was able to get mine for just $13 shipped, which was an incredible price. That Mandarake listing was only asking for 2,000 yen for him, which is around 19 USD. However, while he can go for cheaper than the others, there's still the fact that this guy never shows up for sale, and these listings were from before the set became as well known as it is nowadays, so I'm sure he could still go for a lot when up at auction. It'll be interesting to see one of these, especially one of the Star Rod Kirbys, go up for sale on US eBay, but it'll probably be a while before we see something like that happen. So, you may be wondering, where did the recent popularity of these plushes come from? If they're so rare, what are the origins of all these blessed images of the plushes? Well, thankfully, we have some answers. For starters, this famous photo comes from a 1997 issue of the magazine 64 Dream, and it shows the Star Rod Kirby standing proudly in front of the HAL Laboratory sign. That one's simple. As for the images that showcase a bunch of the plushes all together, I've already mentioned the Kirby Museum, so let's talk about that. Before that though, I have to pay special tribute to this. This image was taken at the Kirby Sweet Shop promotion set up at the Japanese toy store Kittyland in 2015. As you can clearly see, there is a set of Bandai plushes housed in a glass case. Alongside them are these plushes of Rick, Ku, and Kine, as well as a Kirby holding a leaf. I'm actually not exactly sure where these plushes come from. There is that set of Kirby's Dream Land 3 plushes. In fact, you can see the box they came in behind the Kirby, but no, these aren't them. Could these be from Dream Land 2? I'm not sure, but I find that to be likely. Anyway, as for the Kirby Merchandise Museum, it opened in September 2016. And where do I begin? Well, game-wise, they had every single physically released Kirby game on display, but that's easy stuff. Merchandise-wise, there is so much stuff here that I've never even seen before. They had figures, plushes, posters, t-shirts, basically anything that ever existed with Kirby on it was here and was on display. They also had some more unique stuff such as these paintings, as well as these illustrations. They also had tons of internal assets on display, such as Kirby Right Back At Ya sketches used during the show's production, and my personal favorite, this Kirby Disco Ball, which was used in several Japanese Kirby Nightmare and Dreamland commercials. But of course, the thing that caught everyone's eye were the Bandai plushes. They had tons of these, scattered throughout the displays. The big one though is this row consisting of nothing but small and large Star Rod Kirbys. Considering how valuable these are, seeing all of them lined up together like this is absolutely unbelievable. I guess HAL must have had a bunch of them lying around and decided to use them for display. Sorta like what Sega is doing with their Soap Shoes Sonic plushes. One of my favorite displays they had set up was this advertisement for new Kirby hats being released, in which they had Star Rod Kirbys wear them. You can also see a Parasol Kirby at the bottom of the case. Moving away from the museum and back to Kittyland, here's a display from a promotion in March 2016. Once again, we see the Bandai plushes, as well as the Animal Buddy plushes, but I'm curious about this Star Rod Kirby. He's a much lighter color than the others. Is he just sun-faded? Given how these were likely provided by HAL and were internal stock, maybe this lighter Kirby was a prototype? That's just speculation though. I think it's really cool HAL had so many of these guys saved. It's really nice knowing at least a handful of them are in good hands being taken care of, considering how rare they are. Finally, we saw them again in November of 2017, at another Kirby museum set up at the same store. I really hope these become a yearly thing. They also had some newer merchandise such as the Nendoroids on display, and had some other Kirby goods up for grabs. I really hope we see these Bandai plushes again in the near future. People clearly like them, so I think it's only a matter of time before we see them again. It's such a shame that so much early Kirby merchandise has essentially gotten lost over the years. And if it wasn't for a few select Yahoo Japan listings and some sightings here and there, this set would have been nearly lost as well. For example, this is the only image I know to exist of this small Bandai Kirby's Adventure plush set, which for the record would be considered a separate set from this one. There's just so much Kirby stuff that's been lost. Did you know that there was a mystery set of Kirby 64 plushes? Look, there's a Sir Kibble plush in there. So much of this stuff is so hard to find information on. This Bandai set has gotten a lot of attention lately, and that's a great thing. Sure, it means the plushes are now worth even more than they were before, but it's fantastic that more people are looking into older Kirby plushes like this, cause these really do deserve the attention this set is getting. They're incredibly charming plushes, and even if they don't look that accurate, even to classic Kirby, they look very appealing and capture Kirby's cute factor perfectly. The variety to this set is also great. Sure, half of it is Star Rod Kirby's, but we also have a Parasol Kirby, which showcases the game's copy abilities, as well as this standard mascot Kirby, which represents the game's artwork. It would have been absolutely incredible to see Bandai take on characters other than Kirby. Could you imagine a DDD in this set style? But I still think this is a great little set of Kirby plushes. To all of you looking to buy this set, good luck. They command a huge price, and I'm sure many of you watching have been completely turned off by that, but if you really want these, I wish you nothing but the absolute best of luck. They don't show up often, but I'm sure if you're patient enough and have the deep pockets these require, I'm sure you can get one.